Hello students, welcome back to our Target Prelims 2026 revision with MCQ series, and this is a new episode of environment. So we'll be discussing 10 questions on environment. So let's begin with the first question for today. With reference to the ozone hole, consider the following statements. 1. It refers to the seasonal thinning of the stratospheric ozone layer, most prominently observed over the southern polar region. 2. It is caused mainly by human-induced emissions of chemicals such as chlorofluorocarbons that destroy ozone molecules. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. both 1 and 2, or D. neither 1 nor 2. Please take a few seconds and attempt this question first. Done. So we are talking about the ozone hole. Ozone layer and the ozone hole. So what is the ozone layer? Ozone layer is a protective layer that is found in the stratosphere, right? It's a protective layer that's found in the stratosphere, and it protects us from the harmful UV radiations that come from sunlight. Because if these UV radiations, these harmful UV radiations A and B, if they reach Earth, if they reach our skin, then they are going to cause multiple skin disorders and even skin cancer. That is why the presence of ozone layer is of utmost importance. And now that we are seeing that mostly because of human-induced reasons, mostly what's happening is that thinning of this concentration of ozone layer is visible. So this ozone layer is losing its thickness. That is what's referred to ozone hole. So this ozone hole, though it is present worldwide, like it's prominent worldwide, but most prominently or most pronounced it is in the Antarctic region. Antarctica. In the southern polar region, it is the most visible in the southern polar region. For the first time in 1985 also, this was spotted over Antarctica. Now, why does this happen? So for that, we need to understand the process that happens over Antarctica. Okay, so Antarctica is near the pole, right? So it's extremely cold weather throughout the year, and especially during winters, we see that the temperature falls as low as -80 degrees Celsius, correct? Extremely low temperature, and there we see the formation of some special types of clouds, which are the polar stratospheric clouds. Polar stratospheric clouds. Now when we talk about ozone layer depletion, it is happening mostly due to human activities. Human activities like the release of CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons, because these chlorofluorocarbons, they contain chlorine, and one chlorine atom is responsible for the destruction of thousands of ozone molecules. Okay, so the problem is chlorine atom. This chlorine atom can destroy our O3 molecules. So what happens? CFC is released. Why is CFC released? Because CFC is mostly released from the air conditioners or aerosols and sprays and refrigerators, etc. So all human-induced reasons, right? So because of that, we have chlorine in the atmosphere, and when the chlorine gets activated, then it starts attacking the ozone molecules. And wherever this happens, there we see a thinning of the concentration of ozone layer, and that is ozone hole. Now over the polar region, what happens? We have these special types of clouds, the polar stratospheric clouds, and within these clouds some special type of chemical reactions take place. They basically trap this chlorine atom that we are talking about from the CFC. This is trapped. The Cl atom is trapped, and then some special chemical reactions, they keep on happening. During the winter season, all of this is taking place, but the most prominent type of ozone depletion or ozone hole is actually visible during the spring season, because during the spring season we see sunlight entering these clouds. Sunlight is able to penetrate through the clouds, and then once the sunlight enters, this inactive chlorine atom is actually activated. It is activated. Inactive chlorine atom is not going to cause any damage to the ozone molecules. The activated one will. So once sunlight falls on it, it starts activating itself, and once it is activated, it starts attacking the ozone molecules. It starts destroying the ozone molecules, and then we see ozone layer depletion. So it's a seasonal phenomena because it's most prominent during the spring season and over Antarctica. most prominent over Antarctica because of the presence of polar stratospheric clouds and polar vortex, etc. So all these things, they basically trap this chlorine atom, inactive chlorine atom, and once it is activated, it starts destroying the ozone layer. Okay, so let's look at the statements. It refers to the seasonal thinning of the stratospheric ozone layer, most prominently observed over the southern polar region. Correct. It is caused mainly by human-induced emissions of chemicals such as chlorofluorocarbons that destroy ozone molecules. True. So both the statements are correct. Option C, both 1 and 2. So the PDF of this will be provided on our Telegram channel. You can read the explanation there. Moving on to question number 2. De-SOx-ing and De-NOx-ing systems recently seen in the news are discussed in the context of A. Controlling discharge of liquid effluents from industries. B. Controlling gaseous emissions from large industrial sources. 3. Processing municipal solid waste before final disposal. Or D. Improving combustion efficiency in diesel engines. So please attempt this question first. Okay. So what is SOx? What is NOx? Sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides. So these are what? Gases. These are actually pollutants. These are gases that in large concentration, they start acting as air pollutants. So this de-SOx-ing and de-NOx-ing system is actually a way of reducing the emission of sulfur oxides and nitrogen oxides from these large industrial sources, because once they are present in the air, they are going to cause air pollution. And if they start reacting with the water vapors present in the atmosphere, they will also cause acid rain, because they will form sulfuric acid and nitric acid upon reaction with the water molecule. So these are air pollutants. These are gaseous gases that pollute the atmosphere. So these systems that we see over here, de-SOx-ing and de-NOx-ing systems, they are a way of controlling gaseous emissions from large industrial sources in order to control air pollution. Okay. So moving on to question number 3, consider the following statements regarding corals and coral bleaching. 1. Soft corals are the primary builders of coral reefs because they secrete limestone skeletons that persist after the polyps die. 2. Coral bleaching occurs when corals expel zooxanthellae due to stress from changes in temperature or light. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. Both 1 and 2, or D. Neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Okay. So this question talks about corals and coral bleaching. Corals or polyps. So what are corals? Corals are sessile marine organisms. Sessile marine organisms, meaning that they cannot move. They are fixed to the ocean floor. They are sessile marine organisms, but they have a huge contribution to the marine ecosystem, because when they are present, these coral reefs, we'll discuss later what are coral reefs. These coral reefs, they help in reducing coastal floods. They actually act as a barrier. These reefs, they act as a barrier, and they or act as a sponge. Basically, they absorb all this sort of flooding activities and don't allow these the damage to ripple further. So coral reefs are very important for the marine ecosystem. Corals are very important, and when we talk about corals, corals are of 2 types: hard corals and soft corals. Hard corals and soft corals, and one of these is responsible for building coral reefs. So when we talk about corals, hard corals in particular, they pick up calcium from the sea water. Okay, hard corals pick up calcium from the sea water, and then they build an exoskeleton that is made up of limestone, calcium carbonate. From where are they getting this calcium? This calcium has been picked up from the sea water, and from this calcium they are building an exoskeleton, a hard exoskeleton, which is made up of limestone. And once these corals die, once these polyps, they die, this exoskeleton is still going to remain. The polyp has died, but the exoskeleton that was built of limestone, that is going to remain, and over that exoskeleton more corals are going to form, and this will give rise to coral reefs. Coral reefs will be formed because once the polyp has died, the exoskeleton is going to remain, and over that exoskeleton more and more corals are going to form, and that will give rise to a coral reef. And this coral reef is actually a coastal barrier, a flooding barrier that is going to absorb the shock waves that come on the coast. So this is very important. Hard coral is extremely important. Soft coral, on the other hand, does not do such things. It does not pick up calcium. It does not build up a strong hard exoskeleton. So the first statement which says that soft corals are the primary builders of coral reefs because they secrete limestone skeletons that persist after the polyps die, this statement is incorrect, because hard corals are the reef builders. Hard corals are the reef builders. Then again, an interesting association, a symbiotic association is found between these corals and zooxanthellae. Corals and zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae, this is an algae that is found inside the corals. Now this is a symbiotic relationship, so both have to benefit. So zooxanthellae actually provides the food through photosynthesis. It's an algae, it's providing food. So zooxanthellae provides this food and oxygen to the corals, and also color. Okay, and also color. Zooxanthellae is responsible for the color of corals. So this is what zooxanthellae provides. And what does coral provide? Coral provides that protection. It has a hard exoskeleton. Corals provide the zooxanthellae protection because of its exoskeleton, hard exoskeleton. So this is a symbiotic relationship. But during the time of stress, whenever there is, let's say, a temperature change, because these are very sensitive marine organisms also, they can thrive only at at very tropical types of temperatures. So if there's extreme heat, or if there's extreme cold, if there's extreme pressure change, in those cases, during the cases of environmental stress, they are going to expel the zooxanthellae out of their body. They're going to expel the zooxanthellae, and once that happens, then coral bleaching starts occurring, because I told you that zooxanthellae also provide color to corals. So one thing will happen, color will go out, so bleaching will start happening, and then these will also start falling weak, and in very quickly they can also die, because zooxanthellae was responsible for the production of food, for for providing oxygen and everything. So these are essential nutrients. In the absence of these things, corals are going to become weak and they can also die, and coral bleaching will happen because the color will go out, because during extreme stress these corals are going to expel the zooxanthellae. Okay, so coral bleaching occurs when corals expel zooxanthellae due to stress from changes in temperature or light. Correct. This statement is correct. So first is incorrect, second is correct. So the correct answer is option B, 2 only. Moving on to question number 4. With reference to Sambhar Lake, consider the following statements. 1. Flamingos visit Sambhar Lake during their annual migration along the Central Asian Flyway. 2. It is the largest inland salt lake in India. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, or D, neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Okay. We're talking about the Sambhar Lake. This is in Rajasthan. It's a salt lake. And this is in Rajasthan, and it is very popular for the migratory birds, for the presence of migratory birds. It's actually a destination of these migratory birds from the Central Asian Flyway. So Central Asian Flyway is carrying all these migratory birds from Central Asia, from Europe, from Middle East, from even Africa, and all these birds, while they are migrating, they also stop at the Sambhar Lake. Sambhar Lake is also one of the stop destinations for the migratory birds. Okay, so flamingo is also a migratory bird. Flamingo is a migratory bird. and this bird visits Sambhar Lake during their annual migration along the Central Asian Flyway. Yes, this statement is correct. And if we talk about this lake, then this is a salt lake in Rajasthan. It is in fact the largest inland salt lake in India. So this statement is also correct. So here both the statements are correct. Option number C, both 1 and 2. Question 5. The Forest Advisory Committee is a statutory body constituted under which of the following acts? A. Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. B. Environment Protection Act of 1986. C. Forest Conservation Act 1980. Or D. Indian Forest Act 1927. Please attempt this question first. Okay. So this Forest Advisory Committee is actually a statutory body, and that body is formed under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, which is also known as the Van Sanrakshan Evam Samvardhan Adhiniyam, right? So this is a statutory body, and what is this law responsible for? This law is responsible for the protection of our forests. So whenever a forest land is to be used for any non-forest purpose, for any de-reservation purpose, for any let's say construction work, developmental work, mining work, anything of that sort. So when we have to clear forest, or when we have to take away the reservation of forest, use of forest for non-forest purposes, in that case we require an approval from the central government. This is what the law says, that the central government is going to decide and approve whether this will be given, whether this permission is going to be given or not, the use of forest land for non-forest purposes. So this is a statutory body. It's an advisory committee. It advises, it guides the central government on taking such decisions, that whether we can give this permission or not, because the government also has to take care of developmental needs. It also has to take care of environment conservation. So it actually has to find a balance, and in finding that balance, this statutory body actually helps the central government. Okay, and now this body has also recommended something, that is the penal afforestation method. So penal afforestation is nothing, it's simply it's just a compensatory afforestation kind of a thing. So it's penal compensatory afforestation method. So if you are clearing the forest land for any project, any mining project, or any highway project, any other construction project, if that has to happen, then that company, that institution will also have to do some compensatory afforestation. Whatever land, whatever amount, or whatever basically land that they are clearing for forest, that amount will also have to be compensated by afforestation elsewhere. If you are clearing 1 hectare of land, for example, 1 hectare of forest land is being cleared, then somewhere else you will have to find 1 hectare of land and then do afforestation over there, plant trees over there. So this is actually compensatory afforestation. So a penal compensatory afforestation has been advised by this Forest Advisory Committee, and this is a statutory body which is found under the Forest Conservation Act, or the Van Adhiniyam. Okay. Moving on to question number 6. With reference to the air quality index, consider the following statements. 1. The AQI framework in India classifies air quality into 4 categories. 2. Ozone is excluded from the list of pollutants considered while calculating AQI. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. both 1 and 2, or D. neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Okay, so the air quality index that tells us the amount of pollutants that are present in a city, and that tells us what is the air quality of that area, whether it is good, whether it is satisfactory, whether it is very good, or whether it's poor or severe. So when we talk about these categories, so these are not 4 but 6 categories. So AQI, it looks at the level of different pollutants, 8 pollutants. It looks at the level of 8 pollutants in the air over a region, over a city, and then it classifies that area into one of the 6 categories. Those 6 categories are good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor, and severe. So these are the 6 categories. First statement said that it will qualify it into 4 categories. That is not true. 6 categories will be there, and 8 pollutants are there. Okay, a list of 8 pollutants, and in those 8 pollutants we have PM10, PM2.5, NO2, SO2, CO, O3, that is ozone, NH3, and PB or lead, ammonia and lead. So these are the 8 pollutants. Now interestingly, if you see over here, we have carbon monoxide. We don't have carbon dioxide. This can easily confuse you in any of the statements. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. Carbon monoxide is a pollutant. Carbon dioxide in normal concentration is not actually a pollutant. It is not going to cause that harm to your lungs. It's under normal concentrations. However, over a longer period of time, when the concentration starts increasing, then it starts behaving as a greenhouse gas because the global warming potential is very high. So here, under normal concentrations, under safe concentration, there is no issue with carbon dioxide. However, carbon monoxide is toxic. Carbon monoxide is toxic. And why is this toxic? Because it binds with our hemoglobin faster than oxygen. So the role of hemoglobin, or the function of hemoglobin, is to transport oxygen to our body. It takes up oxygen from the lungs and it transports it to all parts of our body. It binds with oxygen, right? Hemoglobin is binding with oxygen. But when CO or carbon monoxide enters our lungs, then what happens? It binds faster than oxygen. It binds with hemoglobin much faster than oxygen. So the oxygen is left behind, and now instead of oxygen and hemoglobin binding, we have oxygen and carbon monoxide binding, and then it forms carboxy hemoglobin. So that is going to lead to what? It is going to lead to an absence of oxygen in different parts of our body, reduced levels of oxygen. So it can lead to dizziness, it can also give you headache, and in very severe cases, it can also lead to death, confusion, and everything will happen. Because oxygen is very important for all the body parts to function properly. And if oxygen is not reaching our body appropriately, then all these things are going to happen. That's why in the 8 pollutants list, you will see carbon monoxide, not exactly carbon dioxide, because under normal concentration it can absolutely be a part of the air circulation. Okay, moving on to question number 7. Which of the following statements about mercury are correct? 1. Mercury exposure can lead to disorders affecting the brain, skin and heart. 2. Mercury contamination in groundwater has not been reported in India. 3. Mercury is generated through several industrial processes as well as natural sources. Select the correct answer from the code given below. A, 1 and 2 only, 3 only, C, 2 and 3 only, or D, 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. Okay, so we're talking about mercury contamination or mercury exposure. So when we get exposed to higher than safer levels of mercury, then what is going to happen? This will impact our body. It is going to impact us. We are going to get diseases. Now this pollution can come in from both natural and human-made reasons. Natural reasons like volcanic eruptions. Mercury can be emitted. And then we also have other reasons, human-made reasons also, because of which mercury is present. Industrial effluent is there, everything is there that leads to the presence of mercury, contamination of mercury. So when we say mercury exposure can lead to disorders affecting the brain, skin and heart, this statement is correct, because prolonged exposure to mercury for levels that are higher than safe category, in that case we can get all these conditions, these disorders or diseases of brain, skin and heart. Then the second statement says mercury contamination in groundwater has not been reported in India. It has not been reported in India. That is not true because it's an extreme statement. And even though it's not widespread, like mercury contamination in groundwater is not widespread across India, still it is found in India. It is found in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and other regions, Rajasthan, etc. So it is found in groundwater. There is groundwater contamination. Mercury is found. So it's not that mercury is not found as a contaminant in our groundwater in India. So this statement is incorrect. And the third statement, mercury is generated through several industrial processes as well as natural sources. I already told you this statement is correct. Natural sources like volcanic eruptions and human-made or artificial sources like industrial effluents. Okay. So the correct answer would be 1 and 3 only. Option B, 1 and 3 only. Question 8. Consider the following statements. SO2 released into atmosphere reacts with oxygen to form ammonium sulfate. 2. Exposure to PM 2.5 can result in chronic health conditions. 3. High levels of SO2 exposure can increase the risk of heart attacks. 4. Carbon monoxide plays a role in the formation of acid rain. How many of the statements given above are correct? A only 1, B only 2, C only 3, or D all the 4? Please attempt this question. Okay, so this question talks about the different air pollutants. Firstly, SO2. We saw SO2 is also monitored by AQI. So SO2 or sulfur dioxide, it is released into the atmosphere and that reacts with oxygen to form ammonium sulfate. So the statement is saying that sulfur dioxide has to react with oxygen to form ammonium sulfate. So this statement, it is not correct. What do you see here? Ammonium sulfate. So in order to form ammonium sulfate, SO2 will have to react with ammonia, NH3. Not oxygen but ammonia. So SO2, when it reacts with ammonia, then it forms ammonium sulfate, and this again is toxic. Okay, so this statement is incorrect. Exposure to PM 2.5, another pollutant that we saw under AQI, can result in chronic health conditions. Correct. PM 2.5 is very fine particulate matter. This has the capacity to go deep into your lungs, and then it can cause very chronic diseases, asthma, bronchitis and everything, because it's very fine particulate matter. Okay, so this statement is correct. High levels of SO2 exposure can increase the risk of heart attacks. So this statement again, it is correct because high levels of SO2, high levels of a pollutant, we are talking about a pollutant, high levels of a pollutant, highly concentrated pollutant in the air, that can actually lead to diseases and it can lead to chronic heart attacks also. And then carbon monoxide plays a role in the formation of acid rain. So is this statement true? In the beginning only I told you that acid rain is formed because of H2SO4 and HNO3. Sulfur dioxide plus nitrogen dioxide, when they react with H2O, they form these acids. So acid rain is formed because of the presence of SO2 and NO2 and their reaction with H2O, and not carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide has a separate issue. We discussed that it causes, it gives rise to carboxyhemoglobin. It reduces the binding capacity of oxygen because it has a much higher binding capacity than oxygen. So this is the problem with carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide does not lead to the formation of acid rain. So how many statements are correct? 1, 2, only 2. Option B. Question 9. Consider the following. 1 hedgehog, 2 bats, 3 dormice. The phenomenon of hibernation can be observed in which of the above animals? A 1 and 2 only, B 2 only, C 1, 2 and 3, or D none? Please attempt this question. It's the process of hibernation. Okay, so what is hibernation first of all? Hibernation is actually a process because of which or during which we see certain animals, they reduce their metabolic rate, because during extreme winters, what happens? During extreme winters, it becomes very difficult for certain organisms, certain animals to survive. In that case, in order to survive, because the food availability also becomes low and the weather conditions are very harsh, so what they decide is that they will reduce their metabolic rate. They will reduce their metabolic rate and they will be present in a sleep-like situation. in a sleep-like situation. How will they reduce their metabolic rate? They will reduce their activity. Most of the time, what do we do in winters also? We don't feel like working, right? We want to reduce our activities. We just want to lie down. That is exactly what hibernation is. Under extreme situations, extreme conditions, there are certain animals that will reduce their metabolic rate because they'll reduce their activity. They will be in a sleep-like situation, and they will also, so how will they eat? So they'll not go out and they'll not, attack other organisms. They'll not look for prey. They will mostly rely on their stored fats. They will utilize their own stored fats during the winter season. That this can span for over a month or for over a couple of months, and there they are only going to rely on their stored fats. They will try to control their activity as much as possible, because the goal is to do what? The goal is to conserve energy and survive. The weather conditions are not conducive for them to go out, and look for prey, or for them to be very active. So they decide on reducing their metabolic rate or reducing their metabolism by actually reducing their activity and becoming or entering a sleep-like situation. Okay, that is what hibernation is, and this is done to conserve energy. So if we talk about these animals over here, so we have the hedgehog, then bat, and this is the dormice. Now all the three animals over here, they practice hibernation. So they undergo this sleep-like phenomenon during extreme winters. So the correct answer over here is going to be all of the above, 1, 2 and 3. Now hibernation is winter sleep. Okay, it's not exactly sleep, it's a sleep-like phenomenon. So hibernation is winter sleep. Similarly, we also have something that's known as summer sleep. Okay, and that's called estivation. Estivation or summer sleep. Exact same phenomenon, but this happens during extreme summers. Other animals, some other forms of animals, they are very, very, sensitive to extreme summers, and that is when they want to reduce their activity, conserve their energy, and they go into a summer sleep-like situation, and that's known as estivation. Winter sleep is hibernation, summer sleep is estivation. Okay. Question number 10. With reference to differences between tigers and leopards, consider the following statements. 1. Tigers are significantly larger and heavier than leopards and are built primarily for strength and power. 2. Leopards generally hunt larger prey than tigers and rely more on brute strength than stealth. 3. In areas where both species coexist, leopards often avoid tigers by becoming nocturnal or shifting to rocky or higher terrains. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 and 3 only, B, 2 only, C, 2 and 3 only, or D, 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. Done? So we are talking about tigers and leopards, two of our big cats. Okay, tigers and leopards, both of these are big cats. But the difference between them, like there are multiple differences, but one of the most prominent difference actually is in their size. Tigers are much larger. They are much more. They're much larger in size in comparison to leopards. So tigers are significantly larger and heavier than leopards and are built primarily for strength and power. Yes, this statement is correct. There's a huge difference in the weight of tigers and leopards. They're very heavy. Tigers are very heavy. They are built for strength. They are built for dominance. They're built for territorial acquisition. So these are certain traits that are found in tigers. Leopards, on the other hand, when compared to tigers, they are lighter in weight and they are smaller in size. Okay. So tigers are larger and heavier. Second statement says leopards generally hunt prey, larger prey than tigers, and rely more on brute strength and stealth. Do you think this statement will be correct? No. Tigers are larger in size. They are heavier in size. Their prey also is going to be larger in size. So when we talk about the prey of leopards and tigers, leopards generally hunt larger prey than tigers. This statement is not correct. Tigers generally hunt prey that are larger in size. and tigers rely more on brute strength and stealth. Okay, so the second statement is not correct. But there are areas where these can actually coexist. Both the species are found together. Now, in areas where coexistence is seen, there we see that tigers dominate. Again, because they are larger in size, they are heavier in size, their prey is also larger in size, they dominate. They have this territorial acquisition kind of a nature. So, tigers dominate, and leopards on the other hand, they adapt. They become nocturnal. They want to avoid tigers, so they become nocturnal, or they shift to rocky or higher terrains. So they become nocturnal. They start, they start being awake at night. They go and hunt at night because they want to avoid any sort of a conflict with tigers. And wherever possible, they also try and change their location. Like they start moving towards rocky or higher terrains, and they leave the other area for the tigers to be. So in places where they coexist, tigers are going to dominate, and leopards will also be present. But leopards will try to adapt. They will try to change certain ways. And one of the most prominent things that they do is that they go nocturnal. Okay, so the third statement is correct. So the correct answer would be 1 and 3 only, option number A. So these were the 10 questions for today. Now we will look at a practice question for prelims. Which of the following is a large terrestrial bird found only in India and considered a flagship species of the Thar Desert? A. Lesser florican, B. Great Indian bustard, C. Bengal florican, or D. McQueen's bustard. So please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.